This is episode 26 with Dr. Trevor Cates. Welcome to My Kid Cures Cancer. My name is Ryan Sternagel, former regular guy turned dadcologist, cancer coach, and health advocate. Each week we'll talk to a new expert on a particular aspect of beating cancer or human optimization to bring you one step closer on your path to true health. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's dive into this valuable, life-saving information which you're not going to hear about in a mainstream hospital. Alright everyone, when thinking about cancer especially, we're always looking for ways of measuring progress and markers of our health, and a lot of times spending good money on tests that can give us that kind of information. But what if one of the best indicators of our overall health is absolutely free and stares us in the face several times per day? We will hear all about that and more from Dr. Trevor Cates, who is the author of the best-selling book, Clean Skin from Within. She became known as the Spa Doctor after working in several world-renowned spas and was the first woman-licensed naturopathic doctor in the state of California, appointed by former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger himself to California's Bureau of Naturopathic Medicine Advisory Council. Dr. Cates lives in Park City, Utah, where she helps patients from around the world achieve graceful aging and glowing skin. She has been featured on The Doctors, Extra, First for Women, Mind Body Green. Dr. Cates has her own PBS special, Younger Skin from Within, and is the host of the Spa Doctor podcast. She believes the healthy skin is inner and outer nourishment with non-toxic ingredients. And this was a really fun interview to record. This is a show about integrative cancer healing, but within that, we're always looking for tools to track our progress and just be the all-around healthiest we can be, and this interview was loaded with those. Dr. Cates got into the concept of our skin as a mirror to our health and one of the best indicators as to what is going on inside of us and where things are at, what various changes can mean up to and including skin cancer, and how to keep an eye on that, which came up a few times during the interview. We got into the products that go onto our skin and how to avoid some major landmines in our health in the form of hormone disrupting and carcinogenic chemicals that are littered throughout even most high-end skincare products, and a lot of those that are marketed as natural as well. We hear a lot about the gut microbiome these days, but not so much about the skin microbiome. I bet some of you may even be hearing that term for the first time just now, but it is another crucial ecosystem to our bodies to keep healthy that is even overlooked in most approaches to natural health. And we got into the sun and sunscreen, how to wisely use the sun for its health benefits and avoid any downfalls from too much use, and the wise use of sunscreen and everything to take into consideration there. And it turns out there is a lot on that front, even with the natural mineral-based products. As always, good to see you here at My Kid Cures Cancer. It's our goal to bring all sides of the discussion on how to heal cancer and be truly healthy to the same table to give you one place to tune into for the most well-rounded perspective possible. This is a show for people going through cancer, by people going through cancer, inspired by my wife Teddy and I's experience with childhood cancer, bringing our son Ryder from a stage 4 cancer diagnosis to the happy, healthy little boy he is today. If you aren't dealing with cancer and want to keep it that way, the show will likely be very helpful to you as well. We will get to Dr. Cates in just a minute, but before we do, we need to cover our bases and let you know that the information you hear on this show is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for medical diagnosis, advice, or treatment. And I also just wanted to let you guys know one more time about the new segment to this show, and that is the My Kid Cures Cancer Thriver Stories. Real stories from real parents going through childhood cancer and rocking an integrative approach. We are far from the only ones who have done this. We did our second episode last week with My Kid Cures Cancer's own guest contributing author, Scott Chiveri, and his wife, Kaylee. It was a really inspirational story. Their son, Matthew, was experiencing really devastating side effects from standard conventional treatments, all the way up to not walking. And they were able to do their own research and completely turn all of it around, all with the right supplementation and other natural therapies to see him through to today being cancer-free. It was really neat to hear about, to say the least. Check it out if you haven't listened already. So again, this new segment is recorded live on the My Kid Cures Cancer Facebook page every Monday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, and then put onto the podcast via Stitcher, iTunes, and YouTube every Thursday. Make sure you subscribe on one or both of those platforms, especially YouTube, as there's a lot on there on how to live your healthiest, most anti-cancer life besides these interviews, including how we live ours. And with that, let's get to Dr. Trevor Cates. Welcome back, everyone, to My Kid Cures Cancer. We have with us Dr. Trevor Cates. Trevor, how are you?
Good. It's great to be here with you.
It's great to be here with you. And I think the first time I ever came across you before we actually met at the event we were just at was hearing you on Dr. Pompa's podcast a while back. And I've been following him for quite some time. And you know, I think the two of you were talking about how cool it was. You were both in Park City, and I was like, oh man, I have to meet both of them. And then it was funny. I ran into Dr. Pompa in the airport on the way to the event that I met you at. So
it's a small world, and Park City rocks. What can you say?
Park City does rock. We should be doing this interview on a mountaintop or something. But.
Right. And, you know, I have done that on my podcast, just so you know. The gondola at the canyons is a great place to do interviews. I did that Dave Asprey's interview there. It was really fun.
No way. Well, maybe when we come on your show, we'll hike up to canyons or something. That'd be.
Okay. Yeah, let's check that out.
All right. Well, I am excited to talk to you today about a few different things. All things skin, and I'd love we'll get into it, but I love the thing about just how I think in cancer we're always looking for markers in terms of, am I doing better or am I doing worse? And you're more hyper aware of all of these different markers when you're going through cancer, or just really big on preventing cancer, one or the other. But you know, a lot of those tests can get pretty pricey. And just knowing everything you can. So I love what you do with the skin and how that is kind of an indicator of what's going on inside the body. And
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I call skin our magic mirror, because it does give us a lot of information about our health. It's our largest organ. It's right on the surface of our body, so we don't need special imaging equipment to see it. We don't need CT scans, x-rays, and those sorts of fancy things. All we need to do is look in the mirror, and it can give us a lot of information about our lifestyle, what we're doing, and if we're going in the right direction or not.
Indeed. Well, I'm looking forward to jumping in. And I think first, do you want to just give everyone a little background on how you got into the health field, how you decided to become a naturopathic doctor? I think everyone likes hearing those stories.
Of course. A lot of us in this space, and naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, a lot of us have a story that got us here. So, of course. So for me, I had a lot of health challenges as a child. As a kid, for me, it was a lot of allergies and skin issues. And my parents took me to see a lot of different specialist doctors who would prescribe me different medications, recommend different procedures, injections, all sorts of different things. And nothing seemed to help me. In fact, I started to have a lot of allergic reactions to the medications they would put me on, or I would have all the different side effects of the medications. And so I just kept feeling worse and worse. And with skin issues, it's not something you can easily hide. So going to school, I always felt self-conscious, and it really affected my self-esteem. I was bullied by the other kids, and it was a really rough time. And because it was impacting my life on a number of different levels. I didn't feel great, and I was, having side effects of the medications, of feeling drowsy or amped up, and then I also just didn't feel great showing up in the world, and didn't want to really interact with the other kids, and just wanted to stay home. So it was a really tough time. Luckily, my parents didn't give up searching for answers for me, and they did eventually find a holistic doctor that they took me to. And it was like magic, the way that all of a sudden I started to feel better, and my allergies started to improve, my skin started to improve, and then I just started to feel like a normal kid again. And I remember at this really young age, I think I was around 11 at this time, thinking, wow, there's this whole other approach. Why doesn't everybody do this? Why isn't this common sense medicine? Why is this considered alternative medicine? And so I didn't know at that time about naturopathic medicine or naturopathic medical school. But later on, when I was in college, I learned about it. And I was actually on the track to go to law school. So when I found out about it, I actually had to switch gears and do all my pre-med classes. But going to naturopathic medical school was such a rewarding thing because it sort of became my life purpose of finding this journey myself and then learning how to help other people get to the root cause to help support the body naturally with lifestyle changes, with herbs and nutrients that actually help support the body's innate ability to heal. And I also love the fact that with naturopathic medicine, we learn about pharmacology, so we can prescribe medications when necessary, but it's really about choosing the least invasive medicine possible to bring about the best cure. So starting with the basics of healthy living and then going from there, whatever you need. And sometimes it's a combination approach for what we need. I'm thrilled with the path that I took. I did end up focusing about 6 years ago, I started focusing more on skin. I've been practicing for 17 years, and about 6 years ago, I started focusing more on skin because I was working in certain world-renowned spas, and I got to be known as the spa doctor. So skin just became a big focus for me. And what I realized with that is this whole idea of that people didn't realize that skin is just an outer reflection of what's going on internally. And I learned that at a really early age because of my own health issues with allergies. But I realized that most people didn't know that. So that's why I decided to go down that path, write my book, Clean Skin from Within, start my podcast, and all that great stuff.
All that great stuff, yeah, and it is some great stuff you've been up to. I've listened to a few podcast episodes and enjoyed them myself, and would encourage everyone to check it out. So I guess yeah, let's dive back into the skin as the magic mirror concept, because that's really neat, and I think I think it'll do a lot of people a lot of good to start thinking in those terms. I don't know. Do you have any just more specifics on exactly what we might be looking for in terms of changes in the skin and what those might indicate, that sort of thing?
Sure. And, I think that basically what we're looking at the skin is any change in the skin and just realizing instead of looking in the mirror and being hard on ourselves. I think women in particular are hard on themselves and they look in the mirror and we think, okay, we just need to put more makeup on or cover up. Instead of looking at your skin that way, looking at as information and what changes do you see? Do you see more dryness? Do you see changes in your skin tone? Are you breaking out more? Are you having rashes, those sorts of things? Why is that happening? What's going on in your life that might be causing that? What changes have you made in your lifestyle that can indicate that? And certainly there are changes that can indicate changes in our skin that could be going the direction of skin cancer. So we want to be careful of those too, like looking at your moles and noticing if there are any changes with the moles, if they start to look more irritated or changing the size or shape of them. Then going in and getting them checked with a dermatologist or somebody to go and look at the moles or any other skin lesions, skin eruptions that show up and continue and are that just are abnormal for you, because it's hard to self-diagnose skin cancer. I think it's really important for people to go in and see a dermatologist to get it checked out and any kind of changes. I think it's good for people to go in like once a year, maybe every other year, just to get a check.
Yeah, it's I think far too. I mean, what am I trying to say? Especially, I think people that get into the whole natural health thing, then all of a sudden there's like a little bit of a complex where, I don't need any medicine at all. I'm just going to go it alone and everything's going to be just fine. But, yeah, I mean, I think the exact opposite is true. It's, you want as much information as you can, but at the end of the day, there's people that still are trained in certain things that know more than you ever will in that subject. So it's probably a good idea to go get it checked out.
And I think that it's good for you to think of people as having, thinking of doctors as your health team instead of one doctor having all the answers. Who can you have on your team that's going to help support you and your family? There's rarely one. It used to be we'd have our family doctor, right? And that our family doctor would do everything for us. Maybe even do house calls back in the day. But these days, I think it's good to know that you can have multiple people on your team. You could have a dermatologist as well as a naturopathic doctor, as well as, whatever else is going on. You don't have to choose one person that's going to know everything.
Yeah, yeah, and we say that especially for your kids too, because I think like it's like your right and your responsibility to be kind of I like to call it the CEO of your kids' health, because that there is the temptation that it's, oh my gosh, it's my kid, I can't, I have to just do whatever the professionals say, but at the end of the day, it's you're still the one. You might not have all the answers, and that's why you're bringing in the experts to inform you on all the answers, but it is your call. And yeah, I like what you said about, that before it was just in the old days, just one doctor or whatever, but, I think it's really neat, especially in this information age, just to be able to pull in whoever you need to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you mentioned skin cancer in particular, and I'm glad you did. I know one of your hot button issues is just what necessarily you're putting on your skin that might not be the best for your skin and for your body itself. You want to go into everything that we should be kind of looking at, especially, I mean, even like a lot of the stuff in the natural health, in air quotes, space that's marketed like that. You start looking at the ingredients and they're still not too great. So yeah, any guidance you could give there, I'm sure some people would benefit from.
Yeah, what I think it's interesting to think about the fact that we put so many products on our skin without thinking about it. And that is one of the big myths out there, or one of the, it's not even necessarily a myth, but to like blind spot that people have is with their kids or with themselves, putting products on them or themselves and they're not realizing that those things can actually get absorbed into the bloodstream. And here's the problem really is that in other countries, like in Europe, they've banned over 1,000 ingredients in personal care products. But in the United States, there have only been 11 ingredients banned by the FDA. 11 ingredients. And so that means it's really up to us as individuals, as parents, that to do a little research and to look at labels, just like you look at your food labels, or if you take supplements, your supplement labels. You want to start looking at your personal care product labels, because there are many ingredients that they're just not well regulated. And if you're putting even on the average number of products that people wear is like nine personal care products a day, according to the Environmental Working Group. And that exposes you to 126 unique ingredients. And so that's a lot of ingredients that we're getting exposed to. Some people definitely more than that. And some people are more susceptible than others. We know that genetic factors can play a role in our ability to detoxify. And so if we have certain genetic predispositions, we're going to be more sensitive to some of these chemicals in the environment. And at this time, we're exposed to more toxins in our environment than we ever have been. And so we are exposed to new chemicals that are being developed on a day-to-day basis, but we're also still exposed to chemicals that have been banned in the United States, because they continue to exist in our water and our soil. They get into our food and the animals that we eat. They also can travel over from other countries that are still making these chemicals in clouds from China, and then it rains down into our environment. So I don't want to be doom and gloom here, but the point is that we are exposed to so much more now than ever before, and it just keeps getting worse. So whatever we can do to reduce our exposures, the better. So that means looking at your air, the air you breathe, the food you eat, the water you drink, and the personal care products that you and your family use. And so reducing the toxins and all of those, and I go into a lot of depth in this in my book, Clean Skin from Within, because it's really important to live a clean life and to reduce these toxins in all the different areas. And there are ways you could definitely do it without, and still live a normal life. I mean, we can't all live in a bubble, right? So, but with personal care products, there are certain things I'm happy to share with your audience to start looking for to try and avoid some of these chemicals, because many have hormone disrupting effects that can play into certain types of cancer, and then some are just straight carcinogens. And so we definitely want to reduce these.
And yeah, if you had any of the big ones, sorry, my phone's ringing. If you had any of the big ones that maybe we should be watching out for that are more prevalent than others, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely want to talk about sunscreen, sunblocks too. But let me go into some just typical ones that you'd find in a lot of the personal care products that you use. And first, I want to emphasize with kids, it's even more important because they're smaller, their organs are smaller, their organs of detoxification, they're smaller, so they don't work quite the same way. And they're also rapidly developing and growing, so they're also much more susceptible to these chemicals. And they're doing things like eating off the floor, they're crawling, or maybe they're crawling on the ground, they're all of these different things. So their exposure could be even greater. So, and overall with toxin exposure. So with personal care products, one of the ingredients that is in many products, and this is across the board, shampoos, body lotions, makeups, sunscreen, lotions, all kinds of different things that people use, is fragrance. And people love fragrance because they love to smell good, and it creates, a certain experience of having the fragrance. But the problem is that fragrance actually isn't an ingredient, as it's just listed like an ingredient on a label, but it's actually a group of ingredients. And so manufacturers don't have to disclose all the different things that are in the word fragrance. So there actually are quite a few known hormone disrupting chemicals that are in fragrance. And for example, there's an ingredient called diethyl phthalate. Diethyl phthalate is a type of phthalate, which is a plasticizing agent. And diethyl phthalate is used in fragrance to help make the smell last longer. But it is a hormone disrupting chemical. And the thing is with hormone disrupting chemicals, we have to be careful with, because they're called endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs. And what happens is they'll bind to they're bind to hormone receptors, or they'll mimic hormones, block hormones function in the body. And so that can lead to a number of different issues. And when it comes to diethyl phthalate and other types of phthalates, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found metabolites of diethyl phthalate and other phthalates at over 75% of samples that were tested in the United States. So we know that these are in products that we're using. We know that they're getting absorbed. We know that they're getting into our bodies, and we know they're hormone disrupting chemicals. So it's one of those things where I know it can be a tough thing to cut back on the amount of products you use with fragrance, but it is important. And keep in mind that fragrance is also in things that you spray. So cleaning supplies, hairsprays, things that you spray also can end up in the body. It's not just what you put on your skin. That's one thing, that just start looking for those, and then instead choose fragrance-free or ones that are scented with essential oils.
Yeah, and the essential oil products tend to smell a whole lot better than anything chemical based. Yeah.
Right. They smell better, and they're actually health properties. They're health benefits of essential oils. So when you breathe in the citrus essential oils, they're actually doing things to help, with the lungs and breathing and calming your mood. And there are a lot of different things that they can do to benefit you rather than have that downside effect.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up the endocrine disruptors and the those sorts of things. It's like breast cancer. That's they've got everyone really, really scared about, or everyone gets really scared about like food-based estrogen and that sort of thing. But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
certainly a lot more scared of plastic bottles and the estrogen mimickers and those sorts of things and exactly what's in the products and all that.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned breast cancer. Parabens are another one that a lot of people in the, talking about breast cancer, a lot of people are talking about parabens. Parabens are, you'll see at the end, you'll see it at the end of the word. So methylparaben, propylparaben, butylparaben, those are parabens. They're actually xenoestrogen. So that means they have estrogenic activity in the body. And they've actually, studies have shown that there have been parabens detected in breast tumor tissue. So now it doesn't, the research that's out there right now doesn't necessarily mean that parabens cause breast cancer. But what, I mean, we don't know yet. The jury's still out on that one. But what we do know is that parabens are absorbed from the products that we use and can get taken up into various tissues in the body, including breast tumor tissue. So that's not a good sign of how that's being taken up into the body.
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned sunscreen. One, I know there's a lot of bad stuff in a lot of the the regular sunscreens out there. So if you could maybe go into that and what to look for in a sunscreen, and then two, if you have any thoughts on just sun and skin cancer in general, and how that might be, misunderstood in the public eye. I think I
Yeah.
know I like getting sun, but
Yeah, right. We live in Park City, sunny place.
yeah,
Well, a couple of things, even with sunscreens, you're going to find a lot of the same ingredients like fragrance, synthetic fragrance, and parabens in a lot of the chemical sunscreens that are out on the market. Let me just throw a couple more ingredients to look for overall in personal care products, and this will include sunscreen, and then I'll go into more of the specific ingredients on sunscreen.
nice.
One of them, and this might be surprising to people. I think a lot of people aren't aware of this one. There are a group of chemicals called formaldehyde releasers. Now, I think we all know that formaldehyde is a known carcinogen. But what a lot of people don't realize that there are a number of personal care products that contain these formaldehyde releasers. So you won't see formaldehyde on the label. What you'll see is these big long words. And I think the easiest thing to do is do an internet search for formaldehyde releasers, and you'll pull up the names. But they're names like DMDM hydantoin, quaternium 15. Like these big long words that you're not going to necessarily know. But what happens is when we apply skincare products containing formaldehyde releases, when we put them on the skin, we apply them on, they release formaldehyde into the air around you. So, and we know that formaldehyde is most toxic when inhaled. So here you're putting these products on and they're just releasing formaldehyde around you. And some of that can also get absorbed through the skin. So they're definitely a group of chemicals you want to avoid and you want to avoid in your children's products. And I think people are going to be really surprised when you start looking at your labels of how many common products you'll find from the grocery store, from fancy cosmetic places that contain formaldehyde releasers. So, I mean, that's another one. There's also a group of chemicals that are contain DEA, MEA, and TEA. These have been linked to in the research to liver cancer, precancerous changes in the skin, and thyroid. And in other countries, they consider these harmful and toxic and have regulations around them. But in the U.S., they're often still used. So again, these are just some of them. I list a lot of in my book, Clean Skin from Within. I have a whole list of them, the research behind it, and alternatives. But before I go into more on sunscreen, I wanted to pause. I want to just keep going.
No, yeah, that's good. And I'm glad you mentioned the high end stuff as well, because I think a lot of times the presumption is that if it's super expensive, then it's probably healthy. But it's funny. I'll be in like a cheap drugstore or something like that, and I'll just for the heck of it, look at some product and I'll see a long list of really bad sounding chemicals and I'll put it back and say that's interesting. But then I'll be in some nice department store and I'll pick up a bottle of perfume or whatever that lists out ingredients, and it's the seemingly same long list of nasty looking ingredients. So it's definitely not just relegated to cheap stuff. That's for sure.
And it is funny when people pay a certain amount for skincare products. It's like they don't want to know, and a lot of times the ingredients are on the box but not on the container, so you don't. Once you throw the box away, you don't know. And and then the other thing that oftentimes happens is people see a product in a health food store or listed as a natural skincare product, but many of these so-called natural skincare products still will contain fragrance and parabens. And so I'm always frustrated to see that. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I developed my own skincare line, the Spa Doctor skincare line, was because when I was working in the spas, my patients would say to me, which natural skincare line should I use? And I at that time, back then I was like, just choose a natural one. They're all the same. And then I thought, well, maybe I should start actually looking at researching some of this. And I asked some of my dermatologists and esthetician friends, so what natural skincare products really work, or which are the best ones? And they're like, no, you have to choose. They're either natural or they're effective. They're not both. And so that was another reason why I was like, okay, I really need to look into this. So that's when I started realizing that a lot of the skincare products out there labeled as natural really aren't that natural. They're not that clean. And then the second thing I realized is that a lot of natural skincare products aren't necessarily designed to make the skin healthy, to help promote a healthy skin microbiome or help with the pH of the skin that we need for healthy skin to help prevent problems down the road and address imbalances with the skin that cause people to break out and to have things like eczema and rosacea. Gosh, I wish I'd known about this when I was younger. But I certainly learned a lot along the way. And I'm amazed at how many myths and misconceptions there are in the beauty and skincare world. It's fascinating to me to be involved in this world now.
Yeah, I mean, just one that I really just came upon recently was the skin microbiome. Excuse me, itself. Everyone's really focused, rightfully so, on the gut, but yeah, I mean, anything that's really, and I don't really fully understand what to watch out for and what not to watch out for, but I know just like soap in general, you don't really want to be over cleaning yourself because then you're washing away your microbiome, at least as I understand it. Could you speak to that a little bit? And then I wasn't aware your products support the skin microbiome as well. And before I forget, I just wanted so that event that we met at, and I came home, I got a couple of your little sample packs, and I must admit that I used them, and like that one podcast that I watched, I forget which one it was, but when I was watching the YouTube video of it, it was like I was glowing. Oh, man.
That's great.
As you are right now, I've ran out of mine. I was like, oh man, I gotta talk to Trevor. But
definitely need to get you some more. So it's really interesting about the skin microbiome, and you're right. There's a lot of focus on the gut microbiome, and that's great because when you have a healthy gut microbiome, that's going to help the skin microbiome. There's a big connection between the gut microbiome and the skin microbiome. So in my 2-week program, in my book, I talk about how gut issues are one of the big root causes behind skin issues, and that's partly why. And so that's the biggest part is addressing the skin microbiome from the inside out is a huge part of it. But also what we put on our skin can make a big difference. So antimicrobial, these antibacterial soaps and those sorts of things can kill off the good bacteria along with the bad. So we want to be careful with using those types of soaps. Those types of ingredients in skincare products can certainly disrupt the skin microbiome. one of the biggest things I think a lot of people don't know about with skincare products is that skin actually does best in a mildly acidic environment. Our skin needs a pH of 4.5 to 5 to really thrive and have a healthy skin microbiome. And so a lot of the products that we're using on our skin have a high pH, like a bar of soap that suds up like that. That foaming action means it has a high pH. So that's actually going to disrupt the pH, which then in turn disrupts the skin microbiome. And even water has a pH of 7, which is too high for the skin. So I'll have people say, oh, no, I'm just, I don't really use anything on my skin. I just rinse it with water. And so that's actually not even the best thing to do for your skin, especially if you have skin issues and you're trying to rebalance your skin. So just kind of to recap on that, address the gut, use mildly acidic skincare products so you want to look for ones that are in the 4.5 to 5.5 tops skin the pH range, which of course my skincare products do, but there are other ones out there you might have to ask the manufacturer. And then just using natural actives instead of these antimicrobials that have harmful, harsh ingredients that can kill off the good bacteria.
So close the loop on the on that water comment for me.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
are you so like, do we need to be balancing out the exposure to water with, the more acidic products? And ideally, and like I always try to bring it back to, nature, I guess, and what would it be like if we were just living in the middle of the woods in huts or something?
Well,
Um,
be over cleaning our skin. We wouldn't be, using bars of soap, and we wouldn't be using triclosan and, hand sanitizers and things like that, right? We would we would be dirt actually might not be such a bad thing, right? But in the environment that we live in, especially like I said, if you're trying to sort of biohack, right? You're trying to beat the clock and try and do anti-aging, or you're trying to restore your skin up if you've got acne or eczema or anything, then it's particularly important to rebalance the pH. If you have a really healthy skin microbiome, rinsing your face with water is not going to be that disruptive. But if you're trying to do a good thing, you're trying to get it back to where it needs to be, and you need some extra support, then definitely after you rinse your face, you want to be using a serum, moisturizer. Those are things that have that mild acidity to help ensure that you're giving your skin everything it needs. Does that make sense?
it does. It
Okay.
does. Yes. Yeah. And we probably wouldn't be obsessively even getting in the water all the time if we were out in the middle of the woods. Just when the mood
Right,
struck, I guess. Yeah.
right. So I want to go back to this because I think unless you were something else you want to talk about first.
I had another kind of
Sure,
tangent question, but
sure.
it's just go back to the sunscreen first. I'll get to it. It'll probably be better afterwards.
Okay. Okay. Great. So I think it's an important discussion to talk about sun exposure because we definitely are exposed to the sun. There's a lot of talk about sun damage and skin cancer, and it is a real concern that when we get too much sun exposure, especially with all the other oxidative damage that's occurring from exposure to toxins and things, that we can speed up the aging process. It can also predispose us to being more likely to develop skin cancer. At the same time, I don't want us to be totally afraid of the sun because the sun does have its benefits too. We get vitamin D from exposure to the sun. When the sun touches our skin, when it hits our skin, that's what really helps with our vitamin D conversion. And vitamin D is an essential. It's actually a hormone more than a vitamin, but it has a lot of important health benefits in the body, including helping protect the immune system. But the thing is that most of the sun exposure we get is on our face and the tops of our hands. So I feel like that's where we need to focus the protection. And then to get the vitamin D exposure, if you go out in the sun, letting your arms and legs be exposed to the sun, that can be a great way to get the vitamin D exposure while at the same time wearing a hat and wearing a good sunblock, which I'll mention in a minute how to find that, for your face and the tops of your hands. That's where I would say to be most mindful. And really, when we get for vitamin D, All we really need is a few times a week to get about 10 minutes of of exposed skin in the sun. And of course, that varies from person to person. You and I are fair skinned people, so we're not going to need as much sun exposure to get vitamin D as someone who has much darker skin. And also, we live at high altitude, so we don't need as much as somebody who lives lower down. Also, depending upon the time of year, in the winter months, we're going to need a little bit more sun exposure to get that vitamin D. But in general, just being smart about it and realizing that we don't need a ton of that sun exposure. And we also don't need to be crazy scared about the sun, too. Being smart about covering up, not going out, maybe trying to avoid the middle of the day, going out outdoors in the morning or later in the afternoon, using those times of the day to get our nature fix and to get our sunshine.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to the high altitude thing. It's
Yeah.
coming from living at sea level back in Washington to what are we at 7,000 feet here?
Yeah. It sunburns so quickly here.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts, even on a cold day.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
are there so what to look for in sunscreen? But before that, are there any what am I looking for? Like natural? I know there's some things you can do to like kind of naturally boost your own sun protection system within the body. I know I've heard of some stuff before. Do you have anything up that alley?
There's taking antioxidants or eating an antioxidant rich diet, eating antioxidant rich foods can definitely help protect your skin from the inside out. One of those antioxidants in particular is astaxanthin. Astaxanthin, you find it, and it's one of the reasons why wild salmon is one of my favorite foods because it's rich in astaxanthin and it has that protective quality. Now, I still would say take your astaxanthin. I take astaxanthin every day. I have my own. It's one of the supplements that we make, and take that, but also use a good sunblock. So a lot of the sunscreens out there that you see are chemical sunscreens and they contain ingredients like oxybenzone. And there are a number of other ingredients, chemical ingredients. This is one example. And oxybenzone is a known hormone disrupting chemical. It's another one of that group of chemicals, the endocrine disrupting chemicals. So want to be careful with those. Instead, avoid those and instead look for a mineral-based sunblock. So the zinc oxide based sunblocks are the way to go. Definitely I'm a big fan of these. I know that some people have a bad experience because some of them are very pasty, but if you find a good one, when you find a good one, and we're working on one, hopefully we'll have one out before too long, because they're a little tricky because they are a little pasty,
Yeah.
but you find a good one and they'll go on well. And another tip is especially for women, is to get a tinted one. If you get a tinted zinc oxide to your, based upon your skin tone, then that can make it not look so pasty.
Yeah, Teddy, my wife, really goes to town on Ryder when we are out in the middle of the day, like at the pool or something like that, and we know it's going to be more than 10, 20 minutes. Yeah, he looks like a big nerd. I guess we haven't haven't found
That's
the right one
okay.
yet.
Protecting your skin, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But yeah, there's some that are a little bit better than others, and so look for a good one. Yeah, so that's there are a couple other things I want to mention about sunblocks that have come up. There have been some concerns about the nano-sized particles of the mineral sunblocks. And the ones that you really have to look out for. So the nano-sized ones they're using technology, you're trying to make the particles really small so that they get blended in easily. But the problem with that, when they start to get into these little tiny sizes, is that when you use them as sprays or for women, loose powders, that they can then go into the air and you can breathe them in and they can get trapped inside the lung tissue. So that's one of the things I would say, be careful with the nano-sized mineral sunblocks if they're in a powder or a spray. Okay.
And would the product indicate that it is a nano-sized particle? Is that like a selling feature that you would always see if it was indeed nano-sized, or is that something you gotta
Not
dig into and?
I know it's a little tricky right now because it's not necessarily on the container because there has been some negative research on it. So anybody that had that on their label, or they're usually taking that off. So you might have to ask, you might have to do a little research, but tell you what, once you find a good brand, just stick with it. And as long as they're not changing the formulas, then you're good to go. I mean, it's one of those things you do a little research in the beginning and then, things will get easier, right? There are a couple of resources. Of course, I've got a lot of information on my website, the Spa Doctor website. Um, but you can also go to Environmental Working Group, has some good information.
You hear Ryder in the background? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. EWG is very good.
EWG.org, they've got some good information. They've got a skin deep database, everything. Also, the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics is another good website for learning about skincare products.
Very good. I haven't heard of that. What was that last one again? The campaign for?
Campaign for Safe Cosmetics.
Nice. Let's have to check
hmm
that out. Did you have anything else to say about the sun and sunscreen? Did you cover that?
I think that's pretty much it. I think I probably gave people more information. And like I said, I've got, I've done videos on this. I've got information, much more information on those chemical sunscreens and things like that in my book, Clean Skin from Within. Oh, and by the way, I'd be happy to share with your audience a link to go to for getting a free copy of my book. And is it okay if I go ahead and do that?
Please do. Yes.
So here's the thing: is it's free. Just people have to just pay the shipping and handling fee, and then otherwise it's free. So it's the spadoctor.com/free book. So it's THESPADR.com/free book, and you'll see the video of me talking about it. And you just pay the shipping fee, and so it's definitely a lot cheaper than getting it on Amazon. But
Nice. Well,
yeah,
I'll just walk over and get mine and avoid the shipping.
that's right. Perfect.
Um, what? Oh, so jumping back to the skin as the mirror sort of thing. So something I've been, I guess, heard about off and on is just like acne and skin problems in that of that nature being indicative. You think it's your skin's too oily or something like that, but is it really more to do with the fact that you might have a little more detoxing to do, and that it's your body trying to detox through your skin and that sort of thing? I've heard a bit about that, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that matter? I suppose.
Acne is one of those things where it is definitely is the most common skin condition in the United States. And actually it's an issue worldwide. And there are a lot of different things that can trigger acne as well as other skin issues. And so, you know, part of it can be when people are changing their diet, when they're going through changes, they're detoxifying, their bodies are changing, that they can start to get a flare up of acne. Usually there's an imbalance in the skin and in the gut microbiome that's then impacting the skin microbiome. That's one of the big things that causes that. Also, there can be nutritional deficiencies that trigger that, as well as hormonal imbalances. And so it could be that somebody's going through a cleanse or a detox, that their hormones go kind of crazy. That can be one of the things that can happen is your hormones start to get out of balance before they balance, and so then that can cause people to then break out in acne.
Just get healthy all around, and
Yes.
don't get scared if you're getting healthy and you get acne, because that could be a sign of good things happening too, or something
Yeah,
like that.
and that's when it actually using skincare products that that with the mild acidity and natural actives and things, that's when they can actually really be helpful as your body is sort of rebalancing on the inside, then making sure that you're using things on the outside that support that change.
Might a little off topic, but kind of on the same topic. Yeah, when I work with people just on getting their kids healthier, getting themselves healthier, that sort of thing, I try to make it more about like a lifestyle of detoxification, kind of like what you're talking about. One, minimizing all the toxins, and two, not just doing like a detox a couple times a year, but more of a continual thing. I know that's kind of what you're about. Do you have any, just not asking you for like a dissertation on detoxification, but just any like general, like kind of day-to-day detoxification type stuff that you like to, the Trevor's go-tos, I guess, for that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're really onto something. I think it's not necessarily that you do a big detox once a year and then eat junk the rest of the year, right? It's that daily, what are you doing every day to help ensure that you're helping with detoxification? I mean, there are lots of things. I mean, really, the biggest thing is reducing your toxic load overall is one of the biggest daily tips I can suggest. And like I mentioned, air, water, food, personal care products, those sorts of things, reducing your overall exposure to those is big. And then eating nutrient-rich foods, especially ones that are rich in fiber that help, help with our colon, helping pushing things through, with antioxidants that help counteract that oxidative damage from the exposure to toxins and just day-to-day living. So those are some of the things I'd say are really helpful on a day-to-day basis. I mean, there are also great techniques like dry skin brushing and castor oil packs and things like that that can also be helpful. I don't know you necessarily have to do those every day of your life, but incorporating those sort of like in a weekly routine, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we do both of those things. Ryder loves the dry skin brushing and the castor packs, but
Good.
yeah. This has been kind of all over the place, but that's a good thing because we got a lot in. Do you have anything? Did you have anything else that you were looking to throw in terms of either cancer or skin? Yeah, go ahead.
I think we covered a lot. I think hopefully people have gotten some good tips here. I would say if people want to know more about like what their skin telling them about their health, the root causes behind skin issues, I do have a skin quiz, and so people can go to theskinquiz.com and they find out their skin type. And I'd go into these 5 different skin types in my book, but they're based upon my patients, so they have human names rather than like dry, oily, mature, those types of skin types. They're Amber, Olivia, Sage, Heath, and Emmett are the skin types, and they're based upon the root causes behind them. So that way people go take the skin quiz, they can find out which of these types they are, and then I give some tips on just sort of some of the daily things that you can be doing.
I hope I'm Emmett. I'll have to go take the quiz. Or maybe I don't hope I'm Emmett. I don't know.
They're all good.
All right. Last 2 questions that ask everyone. If you had to boil everything you knew down into 3 golden rules, and those golden rules are just keeping you healthy and disease free or becoming healthy and disease free, what would those rules be?
Well, I think they would have to do with some of the things that I talk about in my book. I talk about clean plate, clean body, and clean mind as part of clean skin from within. So clean body is reducing the toxins in your environment, like we've been talking about, and doing things that help support your organs of detoxification. Clean plate is eating foods that are clean and making sure that what you're putting on your plate is going to be nourishing and avoiding the things that are going to be harming your health. And then clean mind is, stress is a toxin. So what can you do to help on a daily basis to reduce the stress and manage stress in your life? So I would say those would be 3 of the big key things.
Those are good ones. Those are really good ones. And lastly, I always like to ask if you just have any kind of final thought for anyone going through cancer or any serious health challenge that you'd like to leave us with.
I think one of the things that's really important that we haven't talked about, because we've talked about so many things today, is community and gratitude, and being grateful for who's in your life and having them be a part of your life and really enjoying that. And because I think there's so much healing in that alone that can be helpful on so many different levels. And then especially if you add it into all of the things that we've been talking about, it's just the golden combination.
Very good. Yeah, yeah, we always try to, I feel like that aspect doesn't get played up enough with just, reversing anything, but it really needs to. All right, to recap, we had the skin quiz, the clean skin quiz, the skin quiz.
Theskinquiz.com.
Skinquiz.com. We had the spadoctor.com/freebook.
Yes.
And where else would you point everyone for all things Trevor Cate that want to follow what you're up to a little more closely?
Thespadoctor.com. Everything else is there, and they can find out about my podcast there. You can find out more information about my products there. So yeah, and it's DR, not doctor spelled out. So it's thespadr.com.
Very good. Dr. Trevor Cates, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. It has been fun.
Well, there you go, folks. Your skin as another tool in the toolbox and honestly assessing how you're doing, and another area to have your guard up, just like food, to make sure nothing is going to get into your body that is going to bog down the healing process or aggravate existing cancer cells, or both. As always, please share this episode or this show as a whole with just one person that needs it. This type of information is the kind of stuff that can make all the difference in the world for someone, so please don't be shy with it. You don't need to be the expert, you just need to point them to where the experts come to hang out. Also, as always, if you're getting real value from these episodes, consider buying us that proverbial cup of coffee every month on our Patreon account to keep the lights on around here, just like Nicole did. Actually, Nicole is buying us more like 2 or 3 cups of coffee every month. That was really, really sweet of you, Nicole. I hope you and your family are doing well. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. For the rest of you, if you want to find out how you can support us, you can find out more about that at mykidcurescancer.com/crowd sponsor. Crowd sponsor is all one word. If you have got a cancer-fighting kiddo, I would urge you to go to mykidcurescancer.com/coaching and set up a time to talk a bit more about our program. There's a whole lot to learn, and we've been having a really good time seeing parents shorten the learning curve and feel confident about the plan they have in place, not to mention having someone to bounce questions off of all day. I would have given a whole lot for what we're doing for people back when we were in the thick of it, and paying to talk to all of these different people one time, and I never really feel like we got much out of those conversations. We really work with you to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure you're in a good place. Again, that's mykidcurescancer.com/coaching. One more time, be sure to tune in to the My Kid Cures Cancer Facebook page at 6 o'clock Mountain Time for the live airing of the new Thriver Stories segment of this show, and this week's episode will be available on Stitcher, iTunes, and YouTube on Thursday. Lord willing, we will see you next week with Nicholas Penault, where we will be talking about the links between electromagnetic fields and cancer. Yes, I know I said that last week, but it turned out his book wasn't quite on Amazon, but now we are all ready to go. Music was provided by The Fat Rat and the Tasty Network, and all editing was done by my one and only Teddy Sternagel. If you're going through cancer, just keep going. This is Ryan Sternagel signing out for now. God bless and Godspeed.